What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another edition of the BladeY on the Go podcast with, obviously, BladeYGO, 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 whatever you want to call me. This is going to be episode 1. So obviously, I don't know why I said welcome back, but here we are. In today's rendition of the podcast, I am here with two of the biggest, I guess I would call it the creative faces of Yugitubing. We were going to have Revs on here too, but he couldn't make it. So anyways, who do I have here with me?
I guess I'll go first. My name's Nyhmnim. I do vlogs for Yu-Gi-Oh! You can find me on my YouTube channel at Nyhmnim or Twitch at Nyhmnim as well. Yeah.
I'm Ruggles. I also do vlog-related content, kind of documenting my journey back into the game after a 10-year hiatus. You can find me at Ruggles, and my channel is heavily inspired by Nyhmnim's. So if you like one, you probably like the other.
Great. I'm so happy to have you guys here. I feel like you guys represent along with Revs, the creative side of the Yugitubing sphere. And so I think it'll be really interesting to get your guys' input on the questions I have for you today. So the first question I have for you guys is, what are your thoughts on the current Yugitubing climate? So obviously we have so many channels, obviously the big ones like Sam, Alex, Paul, Doug, all of them. And then we also have the more smaller creators on the rise, like obviously Ruggles, Revs, MBT, and myself, and obviously so many more names, including you, Gage. So what are your guys' thoughts on just where we're at with Yugitubing? Why don't we start with you, Gage?
I think Yugitubing's in a really good spot. I've been around the block for a very long time, so I've seen everything kind of evolve. I think it's in an exceptional spot right now. I think there's a lot of creative faces coming around, and I think there's a lot of different if somebody is looking for something in particular, they're most likely going to be able to find a creator that produces that kind of content. You have people that make news and everything. You have John keeping up on the market watches, doing a great job with that. You've got Simo, who's just this enthusiastic face that is always keeping you up on the meta, keeping you posted. And then there's something for everybody, and that's what I like about Yugitubing right now, as opposed to how it was back in the day, where a couple years ago, I just kind of see it. It's what was it? Everybody's doing the same thing. Everybody's talking to a camera, and it's just who can do it better. But no, I feel like there's a lot of variety now, and that's a big thing that I haven't seen in prior years. But no, I think it's in a really good spot right now, and I'm really enjoying watching a whole bunch of new creators come up and seeing what everybody has to offer.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Ruggles? What do you think, man?
Well, as somebody who is fairly new to this, I think I've only been playing for 4 or 5 months now. I was amazed at just how many great resources there were getting back into the game. I felt like I found very quickly competitive channels, but also channels that were nostalgic and just were more about fun decks, things that kind of just make the game exciting. I also found channels like John from House of Champs, who, does kind of give you a great look into what you should buy, what you shouldn't, what, is a proper investment. And I loved how diverse it was. At the bottom of all my videos, I actually have a little section of, here are people I learned from, here are people I would recommend you guys go and check out. And I was starting to compile that list, and it was quickly 10, 15 creators. And I was like, I don't want to cut any of these people. They're all fantastic. So it was really cool kind of walking into something that's pre-established and already kind of flourishing in so many different directions. I mean, you also have great comedy with the guys from APS, and there's a lot of great content out there. Obviously, I'm heavily inspired by how you've gone about it, Gage, and I think it's really healthy. I think like anything, it's growing and it's going in really good places. I think people are investing more into high production, into DSLRs and all of that. And I'm really excited to see what it all turns into in a year from now. I mean, you see people like Winner Kills, and it's very competitive content, but you see these beautiful BRoll openings now, and it's a lot of really good stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I really think a ton of Yugitubers are stepping up their game and making the videos much higher quality. On a side note, do you guys think there's still room to explore Yugitubing more? I got a question the other day asked to me from someone who watches my channel, and he was saying, I'm worried there's just not enough like room on Yugitubing as a whole to make my own channel and grow from there. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I always think there's room, not even just necessary to improve, but there's always something to do. Like, I don't know how to put it a different way. Like, inspiration comes from like a really, like, it can come from literally anywhere. So I think people kind of get sucked into this bubble of like seeing what everybody's doing on specifically Yugitubing, and more people are afraid to like look outside of that and see what else is out there to offer and maybe what you can pull from. And it's just coming up with ideas that are unique and everything is what makes, I guess, any platform special. So I think if people just keep coming up with ideas, and I think nothing ever gets sold. There's always like a place for somebody. It's just you have to carve your own name into it. And I don't know. I think there's a whole bunch of different ways to do that. And I think just drawing inspiration from like literally anywhere is the way to start. I mean, the only way to ever put yourself in a community is to start. Like, you have to start somewhere. So that I don't think like that argument of, oh, there's no place for me here or something like that. I think that's a very like, that's weak. And
yeah,
like there's always a place. It's just you gotta work at it.
What are your thoughts, Ruggles?
Again, I definitely agree with Nyhmnim. I think that these things are always growing. And if you look at every other section of YouTube, there are definitely different niches, but everything is evolving. There are always new creators coming in. There are always old creators who are kind of leaving. There is room if you're looking at it as a finite number, but it really shouldn't be looked at as a finite number of creators who can exist in a space, because even within Yugitubing, again, there are so many different niches. You might love market watches, and you might have like 5 or 6 different market watch channels you like, and you probably want more of those. I know that I feel like I'm always wanting more content. There are more people I want to learn from. There are more people I want to talk to and kind of experience the game. And there's more that can be interjected. Like, everybody's unique. The way we look at things is unique. And that particular perspective is going to be huge. Just think about vlog channels in 2015 to say 2018. They were everywhere. There were thousands of them, and thousands of them were successful because there were a lot of people who were interested in that, and they all offered their own unique little piece of it. So you found people that you connected with, and Yugitubing is definitely going to be the same way. You might have something that really connects with someone where someone who's already pre-established might not, and they'll be happy to have you kind of in the community and having your view in there as well. So I don't think there is or ever should be a finite number of, this is who is in the space. There's always room, and with your own unique sensibilities, you can definitely work your way.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like, the way I view it is just like the amount of possibilities for Yugitubing end where your imagination ends, and your imagination can just go on forever. So I couldn't agree more with those points. So the next question I have for you guys is more specifically going to be for Gage, but it's going to be, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be interested about this, the origin of the sealed only challenge. Obviously, this is the biggest thing in Yugitubing in 2019. Where do you want to begin with the origin of this infamous challenge?
I think a good way to put it, I normally tell a lot of people about this. I don't try to hide like where my inspiration comes from a lot, and if you're in the know with it, you can easily pick up on like where I get inspiration. But I think to like properly like kind of show you where this challenge came from, I think it's important to like break it up into 2 parts. And that's like when I started doing the vlogs in the first place for Yugioh, and then like I guess the challenge itself. The origin of just like the vlog template that I tried to master, or hopefully I'm getting there, but that was inspired by this guy named Andrew Nyhmnim. And Andrew Nyhmnim, what he does is he plays poker. I was obsessed with poker for a while. Like, I'm still obsessed with poker. But this guy, what he would do is he carved his own name into like the poker community. For what he would do is he was vlog. He would go to casinos, vlog, and he would like just go over hands that he played, and he would talk about like his thought process through the hand. Like, here's how I played the hand. Here's what I would have did different. Here's like all the different lines I could have taken, everything. And he would just talk about his experience at the casino. And I really liked that, you know? It was like kind of cool, like it was informative, and I learned a lot from him about poker and everything too, and it's just another card game. So I thought about it. I was like, you know what? I see a lot of people on like Yugitube, they talk about the game, but nobody really shows the game being played or like how they're playing the game, you know? So I figured, well, I'm not great at the game. I was definitely not great about talking about the game. I would always mess something up. So I was like, I'm just going to show me playing it. Even though I'm not the best, I'm going to just try to make it entertaining. So I got a lot of inspiration from this guy, Andrew. And if anybody has seen any of his videos, you would easily be able to tell that like the majority of like the template for how the vlogs are structured with like the recaps with the games and everything, it's all inspired by him. I think he set a great groundwork for that, and I think it actually just translated really well to Yu-Gi-Oh! But the sealed only challenge itself is taken great inspiration. Me and Simo, we play RuneScape a lot, old school RuneScape all the time. And this is where this whole huge trend started, where there's this thing called an Iron Man account. And Iron Men, they can't trade with other players. They can't interact with other players in the game. They have to be completely self-sufficient on their own. So there's this huge thing with it. Everybody can make an Iron Man account, but this one guy did it differently. This guy's name was Swampletics. And what he did is he created an Iron Man account, an Ultimate Iron Man account, but he locked it into specifically one place of RuneScape. He locked it into this one place called Mauritania, and he can't leave it, and he set himself a goal to complete like the hardest content in the game. And that was really cool, and it blew up. Like it's the biggest thing in old school RuneScape YouTube. So I was at Vegas with Alex at a UDS or something like that, and I was staying with him, and we were just spitballing ideas. We were like, you know, how did this succeed? How was this so successful? Is there any way we can translate that to here, like to Yu-Gi-Oh? And we were throwing around ideas. I think it originated with like, oh, what if we just set ourselves with a budget and try to build a deck off this budget over a week-by-week basis? Kind of like the Yu-Gi-Oh! From Scratch series, like if you were to buy singles. And then Alex was the one that came up with the idea. He said, what if we build a deck strictly from just sealed product? Like you have to open everything. And we laughed about it. We were like, that sounds hilarious. That sounds like absolutely unreasonable. And then the more we thought about it, we were like, you know what? Yu-Gi-Oh! Is kind of like the perfect game poised for that. Because everybody says, you know, like you can buy 3 structured decks and hop in and everything. And while it may be that easy, it's like, where do you go from there? And it just kind of like dawned on us like, wow, like that's a great place to jumpstart is just the 3 structured decks because it gives you like an inside. But also it's just like you can go on from there and see like what you can do with it. So Alex was the one that came up with the idea originally. But the more we talked about it, I kind of already had the footwork with the vlog format, and I knew instantly it was going to translate perfectly if I were to like apply to the challenge there, because it adds some structure, it adds like a story to it. And that's how we came up with it, is we took inspiration from outside of Yugitubing. We looked at RuneScape, which is one of our favorite hobbies, and we're like, you know what, I wonder how we can take things from here and apply it to Yugitubing. And it just ended up working out perfectly. I think the format just really ended up being like perfect to convey like the story, and of course build the challenge on itself too. It just ended up being more than I ever could imagine. It was a blast to do as well. I can't wait to do season 2. It's going to be equally as fun.
I find that really interesting, and I'm sure many people who are watching this are going to find that interesting too. So I thank you for sharing that. I wanted to also ask Ruggles here, before I ask Ruggles this, is there anybody else on YouTube in general that inspired you, Gage, besides the 2 creators you mentioned?
I mean, but yeah, I've taken, like, I do a lot of watching YouTube. I think when you create videos, you look at other people's videos more critically, and you start to take, like, you start to notice things that make the video, like, unique in itself, right. And you start to, like, see how you can apply that to your own work if you like it. And, of course, I've taken, like, inspiration from people like Casey Neistat and his, like, vlog, kind of, like, the way he structures his vlog and everything. But, really, the main 2 creators is just, like, the ones that really got me into making the videos the way I make them is Andrew Nyhmnim and then Swampletics, the guy that does the RuneScape videos. Those are the 2 people that really, I think, got me my chops into, like, making the sealed only challenge and, like, making my video formats the way they are.
I see. Like, I know for me, there's a magic YouTuber by the name of Ristic Studies who inspired my histories. I know, he's so good. He inspired my history style of content. But yeah, so for you, Ruggles, is like, what... what what YouTubers in general inspire your content, or if there are any?
Well, we have one of those legends in the chat right now with Gage, Nyhmnim. He's actually the reason I started my channel. I've always loved making YouTube videos. I think I started when I was 14, now like 13 years ago. And I started off making skits because that's essentially what YouTube was back in the very, very early days. And then over time, I made some other channels. I made a painting channel, which is currently kind of what I do for a living. Currently on that road to 250K to make it happen. But in that community, there's essentially content with painting. You'd assume, you put a canvas up and then you just paint, and it's like a 2-hour video and it's stagnant. But eventually people evolved it to the point where they were interjecting B-roll as well. It's kind of, cleaning the brushes. It's very close-up shots. It's very cinematic. And that's something I always loved about filmmaking. I did minor in film in university. So when I see that, it's something I always really appreciate. Another creator who does that in a very different sphere is Christian Guzman. I've been watching him for years. He's a fitness YouTuber, really big fan, but it's this great balance of personal fitness information and then these great cinematic B-roll shots. And if anybody's interested in fitness and that sort of thing, I highly recommend the channel. But it was something that I always wanted to make. And I thought about making general vlog channels. I'm a big fan of guys like Peter McKinnon, Casey Neistat, obviously Nyhmnim, Revs Cards, all of it. But I wanted to interject something that was also very much me. So when I watch things like Christian's channel, where it's about fitness and it's, how much can you bench press and how do you make this better? But it's also like, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to watch Game of Thrones with my girlfriend tonight. And that's amazing. And, we're going to order some pizza. And it's all of these different things that they just amalgamate to make such a great personal experience. So I find I generally drift to channels that don't necessarily heavily push one thing. It's a bit more wide spectrum. It's kind of being more of a polymath, good at all of these different things and amalgamating. So I personally found that Gage was definitely the biggest kind of inspiration for my channel, but there were also fitness channels and movie channels and all of these different things, art channels that really blended personality and what that specific niche was together. And that's kind of what I enjoy, and it's definitely where my content was kind of born from. But again, I think it's why, to our earlier question of is there room in the space, I think there's always room. Because if you make something personal, you make something unique, you make it your own, and then it's something that is original in that space, which originally felt crowded. And so like, don't ever feel like you can't enter these spaces. You can always interject yourself, and that will always make it special.
Awesome. So the next question I have for you guys is, so obviously you guys, like I stated earlier, are the creative faces of Yugitubing. And so I don't know if there's going to be bias. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but I wanted to ask about quality versus quantity. And this doesn't necessarily just apply to Yugitubing, but like YouTubing as a whole. This is always like a heated contention, and there will be different perspectives on it. But what do you guys think is more important, and why? Or do you think if there's like a mix, a perfect balance to all of it?
Okay. I think this is something all YouTubers kind of have to contend with, and frequently. I think Gage and I probably both fall on the line of quality over quantity, but I think to have a real conversation about it, it's important to recognize from a business perspective, quantity is important. And it's something that you do need to keep up with if you want to continuously engage an audience. And it's something that, it becomes more and more important as people who do daily uploads and things like that. Memory for online content it's so fleeting. And to kind of keep up with that, to some extent, you do need to sacrifice some level of quality for quantity. I would love to shoot everything in 4K. I would love to use mini drones in my vlogs. I would love to do, these big gimbal sequences, but I'm also cognizant of the fact that if I were to do all of that, my episodes would take me 2 months each, and it just wouldn't make sense for the platform, which is YouTube, because all film exists on a wide variety of platforms. But if you know that your content is going to go on platform X, it's best to optimize for it. YouTube, because of the algorithm, because of how evolved it works, the more you upload, the better things will be. But again, I think that Nyhmnim and I both, and Nyhmnim, you can speak to this right after and very possibly correct me, but I think we both sacrifice success to an extent. X number of views, X number of new subscribers, because you do get a lot of additional subscribers when you upload for that quality. It's something I feel like I'm constantly fighting, just saying like, it's okay. It's okay. I can put the video out, and then I end up putting an extra 30 hours into it. So I think that in a way it's great for the content, because it means the content is like really, really good. But I also think it's not great for us as creators, just kind of on the larger scale, because of how kind of oppressive the YouTube algorithms can be. With that said, I think that it's really up to the individual creator. I think that John from House of Champs, love the guy. We'll talk about him at every chance I get. He talks about how he does his daily, sometimes double daily uploads, and that he frequently feels the desire to upload more storyboarded content, things that are a bit more fleshed out. And I totally get it, but at the same time, he's great at what he does. His content, despite the lack of storyboarding, is still incredibly engaging. I haven't missed a single market watch since I've got back into this game, because I love it. So I think that it's dependent on each person, how we all individually like to create. I think it's dependent on the type of content. I think it's dependent on the actual platform and what you are willing to do with your business. Because I don't make my living from Yugitube, then I can take my time. I can make, 90 hours go into an individual video rather than making, 9 different videos at 10 hours each. So I won't ever fault anyone for doing quantity over quality. I think that in a lot of scenarios you have to do that. But I think right now I'm falling into the category of quality over quantity and like slowly trying to get to a weekly upload. That said, I'm going to stop rambling and I'm going to pass it over to another expert. What do you think, Nyhmnim?
I think Ruggles, I think you put it pretty eloquently. I think it's really dependent on the creator, based on what you want to do, quality or quantity. Because quantity is important, because you have to think like a person like John Moore. I love John, and he uploads like, again, once or twice a day. But the thing is, you have to think like keeping up on the market. You got it. The market's so volatile; it's changing every second, literally. That he has to stay on top of it, and he has to keep people informed. Therefore, having like a mass quantity of videos, constantly keeping people up to date, is important to have. The thing is, like, you could have the greatest news show in the world. Like, you could give the news and it could be super flashy and everything. But if you take so long, a week to produce it, that news is now a week late. So when it comes to it, like, sometimes quantity is a necessity when you have to churn videos out to get important information, like, out to people. Like, CMO does his meta-analysis, when the format's actually going somewhere. He does his meta-analysis Mondays, every Monday there's a meta-analysis. He's constantly giving you updates on the meta, and that's important to keep people up to date on the game. Whereas if he did it maybe like the greatest meta-analysis once every 2 months, well, the format's going to completely change in that 2 months, probably, depending on how many sets are released. So sometimes it's a necessity to be able to focus on quantity over quality. But I know personally, my personal stance, since I'm also in the boat that I don't do this full time, I like to tend to focus on quality. And it's more of just a personal thing, because I always tell myself, it's like, if I put in so many hours into editing a video, the worst possible thing is for one of my subscribers, somebody that enjoys my content, wants to see it, looks at the thumbnail or looks at the topic and goes, meh, I don't want to see that today. I'll catch the next video. Because if I put the time into the video, I expect the people that enjoy my videos to watch it. That's like the whole reason I made it. So I'd hate for like somebody to look at a video one day and be like, I'll catch the next one, whatever, he'll upload again the next day. Because I put individual time into every video, and I expect people to enjoy it that way. So that's personally just the way I like to approach things, is like, I like to take the time to, if it's something that I enjoy making, something I can enjoy looking back at, and it's also something timeless. So it's like not the fact that I don't have to upload every week something time sensitive. It's something that somebody can go back, watch a month, 2 months later, and still enjoy it. I think that's something that really speaks volumes to creating just like a fan base, like people that enjoy every upload you put out. So I'm definitely floating on the side of quality just because it's what I prefer. But I think definitely quantity is important for a lot of creators, and it's definitely what a lot of creators build their brand on.
Yeah, no, I think those are all really valid points. Like I know for me personally, I try my best as of like a month and a half ago, I started doing Friday videos. And I like sometimes I'll be like, okay, I have this video done, but I'm like, I gotta wait till Friday. And I try not to put as much quality into it as I could because I want to meet that Friday deadline. So, and I think for you guys, obviously, it depends on the context. So like for both of you, it's not full time, so you don't care as much about making sure like to upload every week. You can take more time on each video. And then there are obviously people like John and Alex who have to be more time sensitive, so it's more logical to make the videos lower quality to meet that time deadline. And obviously it's not as evergreen. So I think I definitely agree. I think it really just depends on the type of content you're making and the context of your situation. And for example, if you don't have as much time to put into videos, maybe, reduce the quality a bit, maybe post more, to be able to post more. Again, it really just depends on your situation and context.
And one more thing I'd like to add, just so we kind of leave this on kind of a pragmatic note rather than one where Nyhmnim and I can both be like, well, we like quality and we will take however long we'd like to make our content. I think it's really important to recognize that if you do want to do something on YouTube full time, you should be making something, and there are exceptions to this, but you should be making something at least every week. Get the content out, get the eyes there. It will make things grow significantly quicker. Consistency is really important if you do want to do this long term. As I noted previously, I do have an art channel, and I started just randomly uploading while I was in university, just different paintings, different techniques I was doing, and it was cool. Sometimes a video 1,000 views. Oh, there's 100,000 views, but it was here's a video every 3 months. So it wasn't anything I could build on. And then eventually, post university, I said, okay, you know what? I'll upload every Saturday. And I'll just make it happen. If it's Friday night and I still don't have something, then I'm staying up all Friday night and I'm making something. And within a couple of months, I was able to turn that into a business and what I do now. But that would not have happened if I wasn't willing to kind of make those sacrifices and ensure that every week there was something out. And I think that the YouTube climate has changed dramatically since I've done that. And I think that even a greater level of frequency might be needed at this point. But just recognize that there is a difference between business and art. And while there is, this beautiful blend that we all want to make, it is important that if you're just getting started, you are aware of kind of the necessity of frequent uploading. I feel like we had this very nice conversation about it, but I also feel like people need to be ready for the reality if this is something they really want to move into.
Oh no, definitely. I'm actually really glad you brought that up because I agree. I think first, and obviously there are exceptions to the rule, but generally speaking, you want to have like some form of a schedule or somewhat of a consistent basis, because if you're trying to grow a brand and a business off of, let's say, a Yu-Gi-Oh YouTube channel or a Yugitubing channel, if you post, like, let's say you post a video and then you go like 2 weeks to a month without someone noticing, especially if you're not already established, like 2 to 4 weeks without posting a video and you're not already established, people are gonna probably just tune out and be like, why am I even subscribed to this person? So I definitely agree that you need to make sure you're staying consistent in some way. And obviously if you're more established, then it is different. And you can redetermine where you're at from there. But especially starting out, I think it is so important to keep a schedule like that.
Yeah, I think it's a lot like thinking about, and I know I'm going on this for a long time, but I
No
think it's
worries.
important for people.
Yeah.
I think that making videos is a lot like having a conversation. You make a video, you share a portion of your thoughts, a portion of your life with your audience. They respond. You have this conversation in the comments, and this amazing thing. But think about if you met someone and you had this great conversation and it was amazing, and then they don't talk to you for 2 months, and then they talk to you again for a day, and it's this amazing conversation, and then they don't talk to you for 2 months. Because it's not that constant back and forth, you're not going to build that real relationship. And I know that relationship can be like kind of like a dirty word online with content, because it's like, well, do the content creators really care? In a lot of cases, they do. I know that I personally spend hours every night that I upload in the comments trying to respond to hundreds of them and have a real conversation. And if you're not able to consistently have that conversation, then people aren't going to kind of connect in the same way. So it's important that just from like a friendship perspective, because that's essentially what a lot of this is. I know that we can kind of get bogged down in the business of it. Constant conversation, or at least semi-frequent conversation, is important just from that perspective.
Yeah, no, I really like that analogy, actually. I never thought about it like that. And that's a really good way of looking at it, because it really is the truth. Like, it is a relationship that people are trying to build with their audience. And so, obviously, for everyone, that, like, for some people, that may not be the case. But generally speaking, you're trying to build a relationship with your audience. And if you're not talking for 2 months, like you stated, it can be hard to establish that relationship. So, I love that analogy. Is there anything else you wanted to mention, Gage, or should we move on?
I think you guys put everything I was thinking into words, so I don't have much to add.
Okay. What are your guys' thoughts on watch time and thumbnails? So the reason why I wanted to ask this was because people like Mr. Beast, for example, emphasize that watch time and thumbnails are the most important metrics on YouTube, and that you should be focusing most of your time towards those. So what are your guys' thoughts on watch time and thumbnails? And titles for that.
Why don't you jump into this one?
Sure, I'll go first. I think both metrics are extremely important. I think thumbnails are actually probably more important than watch time. And that's a big statement, I know. But I always think about it, and it's like, you have to ask yourself, what is the first thing that somebody sees when they're looking for your videos? It's not your intro. It's not your flashy videos, whatever. It's not even the title, probably. They're always, the first thing they look at is the thumbnail. So if your thumbnail doesn't catch like the attraction of somebody, if they don't catch somebody's attention, you're not going to get your clicks. That's simply how it is. So I think the thumbnail is something that's super, super overlooked for everybody. You have to put like an immense amount of time into a thumbnail as you do the video. Like it's natural. Like you have to. Like the thing is, like some people like to think like, I put in 30 hours into this video, I'm just going to throw up a thumbnail that I took 10 minutes on, and they're like, why don't I get any clicks? But if you put the same amount of time, you put an hour into a thumbnail, even like if you just put like basics into a thumbnail and make it like stand out, it's going to translate so much better. Thumbnails are super, super important. Watch time is also important too, but that's one that's, I think, a little bit more difficult to improve on. Of course, keeping like your audience engaged is super important, but like, from my experience, really, it's just really difficult to get your watch time, like your audience retention, over 60% on literally any video. But I guess just objectively, you always want to try to keep your viewers engaged. Like if you have your viewer base like watching a video, and then like halfway in they say, well, is the rest of the video just this? And they're like, I'm gonna go click off and watch something else. That's lost time there. So I think constantly keeping your viewers like engaged, making sure like watching the video is important. Like the thing is like something I always like hear about is like and this isn't like a diss at all, but like some of the other YouTubers like DZ for Simo, I always hear people say like, I throw your video on in the background while I'm doing stuff. And that's great for a thing like, oh, if somebody wants to like listen to the video, there's obviously a lot of information that they want to gain from it. It's incredible. But you're taking your viewers' eyes away from your content. And that's a big thing, is getting your viewers engaged and watching the content itself. So I think visual presentation is very important to making sure like your watch time translates well. Because like Otherwise, you're just making like glorified podcast. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of like great information to be told from there. But I think visual storytelling is very important, and it also can bode very well when you're trying to improve watch time. What about you, Ruggles? What do you think, man?
I think you completely nailed it when you said, or really just stated, the importance of thumbnails and the fact that if you're going to put X number of hours into your video, you should definitely put X number of hours into your thumbnail, because it doesn't matter how good that video is going to be if nobody watches because nobody clicks, right? So it's definitely the first thing you notice. It's what draws people in. I actually uploaded a video last night and I changed the thumbnail 3 times since, just watching kind of how people were coming in, how the video is doing in comparison to previous videos, because it is massively important. And if you're going to put, 30, 40, 50 hours into something, don't spend 20 minutes on the thumbnail just for people not to watch it. I was talking to my girlfriend last night and I said, I need to do some extra work. I need to put an extra hour into making a thumbnail. And she said, an hour? Isn't it just a picture with like a little bit of text? And it's like, yeah, it is. But you want to get the cards at the right angle. You want to eliminate glare. You want to make sure that the text is right. You want to do all of these things, because if that thumbnail isn't right, it's not going to translate well for your video. And you want backups, probably, as again, I talked about. And it's also, you have to find that line again of what's sensational and what's honest, right? And I think that's something that people can kind of lose throughout their journey on YouTube. It's, you have to get more views, have to be more clicks. Yes, but you have to ensure that what your thumbnail represents is what is actually, presented in the video. Because if people watch a video and it has the best thumbnail ever, and then what they get in the video is not what was advertised in the thumbnail, guess what? They're not going to come back. They are not going to subscribe. And you will do more harm than good, because while that one video may render you quite a bit of monetization, guess what? That person isn't going to come back. And long term, would have been better to have an honest thumbnail that doesn't garner that same number of views, but will continuously bring forward that audience, right? Because over time, a lot of videos that do fairly well is going to do a lot better for you than one video that does amazingly and is essentially false advertisement. So I think that spending a lot of time on the thumbnail is very important. I think it's also very important to be honest with yourself and ask yourself, does this accurately portray what is actually going to be in the video? Because long term, that's also a really, really big factor. As far as watch time goes, I think it's really important, just generally for the algorithm, and to see how people are responding. I think 60%, as Gage noted, is a really good number to shoot for, because in a lot of scenarios, people are going to click that video. New people, right, who find it through the algorithm might say something like, oh, I don't like the style of video. Click off 13 seconds in, right? So that immediately balances out with someone who watched the video all the way through. So if you get 60% watch time, what that actually really equates to is, you are getting people who are watching the full video, and that's a great thing. I don't think YouTube really expects algorithmically for you to have something that is, 80, 90%, because a lot of people are going to jump into the video and then immediately jump out. Or maybe you respond to a comment, they come back to the video for 3 seconds to respond to that comment, and then they're out again. So that also hurts watch time. So I think it's important to recognize that watch time isn't actually directly how long people are watching your videos, especially loyal subscribers. There are a lot of kind of external factors, but it's important to recognize, and to kind of make this little rant longer here. In film school, we learned kind of about 2001 and 2001 in film, because in 2001, there was essentially this unofficial 4-second rule, and it was that something different has to happen on film and change every 4 seconds, whether it be a cut or a new character entering or leaving, something visually changing on screen to keep engagement up through film. And if you go back to films that were made in that time, I always reference The Grinch because it's just such a visually wacky film. But if you watch those, you notice that it's so zany. Something is always happening and it keeps you engaged, but I think it definitely hurts the actual viewing experience. So recognizing that changing things in your video, whether it be visuals, text, whatever it may be, will keep engagement up because it will keep eyes on the video longer. People are saying, oh, what's happening? They're not going to their phones. They're not going to other social media platforms. But, again, it's about finding that balance of this will keep people engaged enough and it won't just be utterly ridiculous, like, again, a lot of film was in 2001. So I think it's important for the algorithm. I think it's important to think about in general, but don't kind of go overboard with it when editing. Otherwise, it could hurt the final product. I guess don't let it dictate the final product. Make your art, but then also try to recognize the algorithm thing. I'm getting tongue twisted. Someone else talk, please.
Honest, I just gotta say, I love this conversation. I could talk about YouTube forever and learn more. But I was gonna say, so first off, I was thinking about that idea the other day of the 4-second like change, and it could be even as simple as, like, let's say you have 2 cameras set up of 2 people talking, just like every 4 seconds you switch from one person to the other. At least something is going on, and then obviously at a point you can include B-roll and everything. But I definitely think that's an amazing way to improve watch time. I know for me, for example, I had like a 50% audience retention rate for like a 10-minute video, which isn't too bad, but like as soon as I started like making sure more was going on instead of a card just zooming in, it definitely made a difference. So right now, for example, I'm around the 60% range in terms of audience retention rate, but that's because of like you guys have been talking about improving, just like have more visually going on. And for the thumbnails, I actually wanted to ask, because I know some people may be curious, like, what are the exact numbers and whatnot? What are like the usual click-through rates that you guys get for your thumbnails, or at least try to shoot for?
What do you mean? Like,
so in terms of like the analytics, like because obviously the click-through rate can change throughout how many impressions a video gets, but what would be the percentage, I guess, of people clicking your videos when they see it? If there's like an average number or something.
In relation to our subscribers, or just on average how many views we accumulate per video?
Oh,
just on average.
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't be able to pull that number right now. But it's like I want as many people that are subscribed to me to watch my videos. So I mean that's the ideal kind of situation. But no, I don't know the exact number of what my click through rate is.
Okay. Oh, no worries. I
think I have something interesting to add here, and if I feel like I'm kind of taking over the conversation, I apologize. Feel free to cut in at literally any point. I think that these are things that differ from channel to channel, from niche to niche. I found the Yugitubing sphere very, very interesting in how many views you get in relation to the number of subscribers you have. I think at this point I have 23,000 subscribers, but within the first week, all of my videos get at least 30,000 views, and then they normally settle out around 40, 50,000. And that's insane. That's like double the amount of subscribers I have. So the algorithm is putting my video out to a larger number of people. People are clicking on the video and repeatedly, but they're not subscribing. So it's really interesting how that relationship works, where I have something like my painting channel. I have over 200,000 subscribers on that. But if I put out a video and I get 30,000 subscribers in the first 2-3 weeks, I'm very happy. So percentage-wise, I think it's very different depending upon the content you make. And if it's very different in terms of niches, then it's also very different in terms of what type of content you're actually creating within Yugitubing. Because I'm sure that market watches, vlogs, informational videos, meta-analysis, I'm sure they all perform very differently. And it's important to recognize that you're working within a certain sphere, so you're not constantly comparing that to people in other spheres. Because if I was comparing that in terms of my watch numbers from my painting channel to that of my Yugitube channel, then I'd feel really bad about my painting channel. But it's just kind of how it works with different audiences in different spheres. So try not to compare yourself directly to other things that might not kind of fall in that same line, if again you're starting out kind of making content and whatnot.
Yeah, definitely. I agree though. I mean, like, I think, for example, Yugitubing, It's just it's a really weird niche because you see so many other channels in different niches. Like I mean, granted, vlogging is very like non-niche focused vlogs are very saturated, but or even just like YouTube growth channels. I see these videos get like only a couple thousand views, and I'm like, oh my god, it's so weird seeing a channel with like 200 to 300,000 subscribers get a few thousand views per video, and every now and again they'll get like a very big video. And then you see something like Yugitubing where the niche is very weird in that you can be a smaller channel and not have a couple 100,000 subscribers but get a ton of views, as long as like the video itself is good. So I definitely agree there. And then, so the final question I have for you guys for this podcast is, and if you guys like, I for anyone who's watching this, let me know if you'd like to see another episode with these specific guests. I'm always down to, like, you know, like have the same guests over again. So let me know. But the final question I have is, if there was like one specific thing you could tell people as advice for growing a channel, what would that be?
Nyhmnim, go ahead.
I'll start. Literally, this is gonna sound like the dumbest thing you'll ever hear, but it's just literally like one word: just create. Like, I don't know how much else to put it. It's just like, don't make videos, create. Like, the thing is like, people will always like be like, oh, what do I do? Like, how this idea is not working or anything. And it's just, you'll never get anywhere if you don't start. So like, if you're trying to grow a channel, you just work at it and create, do things differently, try different things. You should always be trying to like improve yourself, like always trying to learn something different. When I was starting my channel and everything, oh God, I went through this huge stage of like, I was just trying everything and trying to see what stuck. Like, I tried so many different video formats and everything, and it's just more having fun from like learning things. Like, if you learn a different like editing skill, like I learned everything on how to edit through my editing software by myself. And I think I've gotten pretty okay at it, but it's just everything that I've learned myself. It's like been enjoyable too. Like, once I figure that one thing out, like I see somebody do a certain shot in like a vlog or something, I'm like, man, I want to replicate that. How did he do that? How does he do that? And then I look at it and I try to do it myself. And when you finally nail it, it's like the greatest feeling in the world. And when you're bettering yourself too, you'll also see those sort of the, what's the word I'm looking for? You'll see those results sort of like come with it too. It's just a matter of keep working on yourself, improving yourself, and the numbers will come.
Awesome. Ruggles, any what would be your biggest advice?
I think you need to make a video, a piece of art, a product that you personally very much believe in. Because if you don't love what you're making, you're going to burn out very quickly. And while it may be the best type of video in that sphere, while it may garner you thousands of views, if you don't love what you're doing, then you're not going to stick with it, and it's not going to be successful long term. So whatever you're doing, make sure you love it, and recognize that there are enough people out there that regardless of how small your interest is, there are probably enough people to facilitate a quality, fairly large channel here on YouTube. And large is obviously a relative term. We're not beauty channels with, 20 million subscribers, but you can make a living really doing almost anything you want. This is going to be the episode of backstories. I once had a movie review channel, and I would get like 100,000 views a video, and it was really cool. But I felt like after a certain point, I was pandering to kind of what I thought people would want. And it felt kind of dirty. I really didn't like it. I very quickly fell out of love with what I was doing, and it was very successful. I could make, a lot more money than I do now had I kind of continued down that route. But it wasn't honest. It wasn't what I wanted to do. And I just realized it's so much more important to make something you believe in at the semi-sacrifice of success, because you can find success in things that you do believe in. And chasing the numbers, just trying to find what's successful, is definitely the thing I would stray most from and advise anyone to stray most from. Do something you believe in, do something you love, you're passionate about, you can find success in it. And again, find that good balance between quality and quantity. If you do want to do it for a living, find a way to make it continuous. And if you're just doing it for fun, then put as much time into it as you want. But make sure that what you're making is something you love and something you believe in.
Awesome. I love all of that. I'm sure many people will too. Guys, thank you so much for coming on to the, I don't know if this is going to be the first or second episode that gets published, but it'll be one of the first few. Is there any like final thoughts or words you'd like to say before I close out here?
Just thanks for having us, man. I had a blast just sitting down talking to you, dude. Like,
I mean, honestly, I thank you guys for coming on. I'm sure many people are going to learn a lot from this podcast, but also, I mean, I learned a ton of stuff. I really enjoyed talking to you guys about everything involving what we talked about.
It was honestly so much fun, and I do feel strongly that there is a lack of and a need for great podcasts in the Yugitubing community. So I love that you're taking the initiative. You came to us with a great set of questions, very professional, very well organized, and I've no doubt that this podcast is going to continue to be absolutely fantastic. So thank you for having us on. Thank you for taking the time and, asking us questions, letting us ramble, because I definitely did ramble.
No problem. I appreciate the kind words, guys. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you everybody for watching one of the first episodes of the BladeY on the Go podcast. There will be plenty more to come. Get excited. I don't know if it will be the previous podcast or the next podcast, but we're going to have Ryan Levine and Cody Angeloff on and talk about the current state of the metagame, but additionally, their experience with the World Championship, competing, how they got there, and so much more. Thank you guys so much for watching, and with that, I hope to see you soon.